Hey folks, it's the Piston Flyer here, hope you're well, and welcome back to another bike news, this time for the month of July 2021. If you're interested in what's been going on in the world of motorcycles here in the UK for the last month, stick around and stay tuned. Okay, now last month's bike news went on a bit long, so I'll try and do this one a little bit snappier. 4 papers, quite a lot of stories to go through, and of course, at the very end, I'll have some parish notices for you as well. I've got an amazing month coming up on the channel. I'll tell you all about what's coming up at the end of the video, so stick around for that if you're interested. All right, straight on to bike news then. First story here. This one, hot new 5.4. So this is a brand new bike from Honda, limited edition CB1000R. It's a prototype, brakes cover ahead of the official unveiling. Lovely full picture here that MCN have got. Not quite sure when the official launch of this is. I have to say, I have managed to sneak a peek at this myself. I actually saw this in the back of a van. I won't say any more than that because perhaps I wasn't supposed to see it, but a beautiful bike in the flesh, I have to say. Let me tell you a little bit about what MCN have said. Honda UK have teamed up with custom bike guru Guy Willison to build a limited edition of 54 special CB1100RS models. Now the alliance has reformed to give the 2021 CB1000R the same 5.4 makeover. Do you remember he did that same thing last year, didn't he, with a bunch of Honda's CB1100RSs? They look great. This one, the CB1000R, looks brilliant as well with the Guy Willison treatment. This special edition model expected to be limited to just 54 units again, underpinned by stock CB1000R. Where this 5.4 will differ is in a raft of cosmetic changes and a screamingly aggressive race-fit titanium Growler X exhaust with 5.4 logos etched into the stubby can. Levers are replaced by LSL dogleg items, while the dinky CNC mirrors are also LSL. Special Honda Endurance Racer paint job, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. Cowled single seat unit and hand-stitched diamond pattern leather seat. Handcrafted headlamp cowl. Bespoke tail tidy. And it says here, as we await an official announcement of the model run, there's also no confirmed price, but we expect it to leave circa £17,000 hole in your pocket. That's based on the stock CB1000R, which is £11,649. That initially feels like a salty price hike, but you couldn't build one cheaper, it says here. And it is a beautiful bike, and something they didn't mention here, but when I had a sneaky peek at this myself, even the retro style Honda badge on the tank has been hand painted by a craftsman. Absolutely incredible. That is not a sticker. It looks incredible, and up close it is a beautiful, beautiful bike. I have to say, the CB1000R in its stock form, nothing wrong with it, but it left me a little bit cold. There's just nothing about it that you know, just got me. It's just a bike that didn't grab me particularly. As I say, perfectly nice bike, but just didn't do it for me. But this one, this has absolutely changed the bike. It looks amazing now. So yeah, if you've got 17 grand burning a hole in your pocket and you fancy one of these, get your name down quick because they'll probably go quickly once they get properly announced. So anyway, hopefully I haven't broken any confidences there by mentioning that, but it is in MCN after all. Right, moving on then. Next story here. Adventure bike bargain beckons. This is another Chinese bike, and I always get criticised whenever I talk about Chinese bikes here on the channel, but you know, ignore them at your peril. I always say that. This is the new Vogue 500DS. Apparently it's going to debut in the UK for under 5 grand. Now this is again a Chinese adventure style bike. It's got a bit of a cross of I don't know, GS and Multistrada rolled into one maybe. I think it's a handsome looking beast. The details here, says here, the folks at Lexmoto are helping to bring the Chinese brand to our shores. The Vogue was recently launched from the brand Lonsin in Chinese. Now Lonsin or Lonchin are a massive Chinese brand, and it's one of their bikes actually. I assume it'll be rebranded by Lexmoto when it comes here. It's got a 471cc parallel twin, puts out 46.2 brake horsepower, so we're not talking GS or Multistrada power levels here, but we are talking something that's absolutely bang on for A2 licence holders. So if you just learnt to ride and you fancy an adventure bike that's not going to break the bank, possibly something to consider. It's got 31.3 foot-pound of torque at 7,000 RPM, and in practice this should be enough to get a shift on because it only weighs 188 kilograms dry, which is pretty light for an adventure bike. I don't know if it comes with the panniers as part of the price, but they look the business too. 17 litre tank, got decent spec, Nissin brakes, KYB suspension, Pirelli Angel tyres, proper Bosch fuel injection system, and a TFT dash. I mean, this all for less than 5 grand. You can't argue with the value, can you? The 500DS costing $4,999, including a 2-year parts and labour warranty. Despite being such a new brand, the Vogue 500DS will be available from over 150 dealers around the country. Absolutely incredible. Seat height of it, 815mm, so a lot lower than the usual adventure bike, making it much more accessible to shorter riders as well. TFT dash has all the usual stuff, plus tyre pressure monitoring and phone connectivity. Again, this is a less than 5 grand bike. I think it looks great. I mean, if it had Honda or Yamaha written on the side, we'd be falling over ourselves to buy this bike, wouldn't we? So yeah, maybe I can have a go at that at some point, because I think that's worth further investigation. I know all the arguments against Chinese bikes, but I just say ignore them at your peril. They're getting better and better, and this thing looks pretty good to me, and at a great price. All right, moving swiftly on. Top of the class. I love these comparisons that MCN does, and here they compared the Tracer9 GT against the Tiger 900 GT and the BMW F900XR. Although amusingly, I see here on the picture they've got the XR and the GT around the wrong way. They've got the labelling wrong, but never mind. We all make mistakes. They have to get the paper out quickly. Anyway, these bikes, I think I've ridden them all. He says, thinking, oh yeah, I've ridden all these bikes, and they're all great. I mean, I've said this before many times, and anyone who's ridden a new bike will tell you there is no such thing as a bad new motorcycle these days. These are all lovely bikes, and it really comes down to how much money have you got and what do you like the look of. Having said that, they're all a similar price. They're all between 12, well, the Tiger 900 GT Pro, which is the top level Tiger, 13,100. The cheapest here is the Tracer 9, 12,202. But yeah, all lovely bikes. Let's see what the verdict is from MCN out of interest. They've said all three bikes here are not only brilliant, but they demonstrate you no longer need to have a 14 grand 1000cc plus adventure behemoth. There you go, back to our previous point about the Chinese bike. The BMW F900XR is in many ways the best bike here. The Triumph has the most of everything, but the new Tracer9 GT, although not perfect, has nearly all of the goodies and more. It's the cheapest of the bunch, yet also has an exciting X factor not even the tempting XR can match. Yes, its dash is derisable, its screen is lacking, and its switchgear annoys, but for 12k all-rounder, it's really got it all, is what MCN say. Now, I've recently ridden the Tracer9 GT, reviews coming up soon, and it is a nice bike, but I actually disagree with the way they've got this, and I'd have it the other way around. I'd have the Triumph first, then the BMW, then the Tracer9 GT, mainly because of the way the bikes look, to be fair. I just don't think the Tracer9 GT looks nice now. I prefer the previous model. Yeah, no doubt a nice bike. Be interested in your view to see what you think is the best bike out of that bunch. But MCN, like the Tracer9 GT, I personally couldn't live with the dash on it, those goggles looking back at you. Don't fancy that. All right, next one. Time to chill out. Triumph's new Speedmaster proves perfect for those who aren't in a rush. Now, if you remember, a couple of months back on Bike News, we talked about the fact that Triumph were refreshing their Bonneville range. The Speedmaster got that treatment as well, and now it's starting to get out to journalists to test. Now, the original well, not the original Speedmaster, but the last version of the Speedmaster, I like very much. It surprised me. At the time, I'd ridden very few cruisers, and I thought I wasn't a cruiser man. I'm kind of changing my mind a bit now, having ridden a few since. But the Speedmaster was one of the Bonnevilles that I really like. I prefer riding this than the Bobber. In fact, I prefer riding it than many of the Bonnevilles. It's a lovely bike. The thing that I didn't like about it was the single dash instrument. I'd love it if it had the twin chrome clocks. And also, I think at the time, it only had a single front disc. Anyway, let's see what the changes are and see what MCN say. So, driven in part by Euro 5 regs, the new 11,850 machine gets its first spruce up since it was introduced in 2018. Goodness, 3 years ago when I last rode it. It's packed with silicon secrets, including a ride-by-wire throttle, ABS, traction control, and rider modes, road and rain. That's all you need, to be honest. As far as electronics concerned, I don't need any more than that stuff. That's a fine suite. Cleaner and more eager. It's got new internals, which what Euro 5 takes away though, so power is only up from 76 brake horsepower to 77 brake horsepower. So actually, even though Euro 5 normally reduces power output, they've managed to up it slightly. It's at its most rewarding at low revs, however, and I would completely agree. This is a cruiser, and that means cruising around at low speed, enjoying the wave of torque that these bikes offer. That's what these bikes are all about. More comfort. It's got a plusher seat with added lumbar support, gives the Speedmaster extra comfort over distance. New detailing on the classy analog LCD clock, it says here. I personally don't like that clock. I by far prefer the double clock arrangement as you get on the other Bonnevilles. It's a shame. It just looks a bit plasticky to me. It's something that would be so... I mean, a retro bike deserves retro clocks, I think. And yes, I accept you can have an LCD screen or even a TFT part of the screen that makes the thing look good. But the plastic surround just looks cheap and nasty. But other than that, lovely bike. What does Neosy say in his verdict? Triumph Speedmaster is low, characterful, easy to ride and beautifully finished. It's more sure-footed in corners with its new forks, and the new seat is a marked improvement on the old model. It's a grunty engine, laid-back riding position, and they're at the most joyful when you're taking it easy. I agree. Maybe that's why I'm an old bald not fat anymore, an old bald fella, and I just like cruising around the back lanes on a Sunday afternoon, and this bike I think would be perfect for that. So as soon as these are available to me to borrow from Triumph, hopefully I'll get my hands on one and I'll do a good in-depth, longish term review on it. So yeah, really looking forward to having a go on that. Like the paint scheme as well. The red looks really good on that. So thumbs up to Triumph for that one. All right, last story in this first paper. Royal Enfield Continental GT650, 1 year on. They've asked an owner here, a chap called Mark Anstey from Bedfordshire, what he makes of his Royal Enfield a year on. I mention this because I am a Royal Enfield fan, as you may know if you've watched the channel much in the past. I own a Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, which is currently being customised. I haven't had it for the last, well, 8-9 months plus in total, but that more about that in parish notices actually, because I've been to see the bike this week. Anyway, talk about that a bit later. But I love the Enfields. The GT is basically the same bike as the Interceptor. It just has a slightly different shaped seat to make it look more cafe racer, different shape fuel tank and different handlebars. Otherwise it's the same bike. I absolutely love mine. They're great bikes, and again, brilliant values. What does Mark say? This bike is most definitely a keeper. It's simple, well balanced, good looking, fun, works great as an all-rounder with the exception of 2-up touring. I would agree with all that. Build quality is spot on. There are no furry fasteners or rusty bolts. With soft panniers and a tent, it's good for a weekend away too. Well, you can keep your I don't do tents, so maybe not a weekend away with a tent, but I absolutely agree you could tour on it. They're very comfortable bikes. I love the classic looks. Again, I'm just getting old, but I mean, there is an example. Look at the clocks on the Enfield. They look absolutely brilliant, don't they? Proper old style clocks. You have got a digital part of it, which gives you your fuel gauge, etc. That's absolutely fine, but otherwise they look classic. They've got a nice chrome surround. They look like clocks should look on a bike of this type of thing. So Triumph, take note of that one. But glad to see Mark is still enjoying his Royal Enfield, as indeed am I. All right, that's it for the first paper. Right, moving on then, second paper, first story here. What have we got? Oh, Enfield's DIY Custom. While we're on the subject of Royal Enfields, here's a company that's come up, a French company, that's come up with a way of doing some customisation work yourself for a bit less than you would pay if you actually sent it off to a proper custom house, as it were. So, Bad Winners is the name of the company. They've built a series of do-it-yourself kits for the Royal Enfield 650 Continental and Interceptor. It has a 5cm shorter subframe, new custom style leather seat, up front some new bars with neater controls, Moto Gadget Speedo and Oberon mirrors, a Coso headlight and indicators, new pipes and an air filter courtesy of S&S Cycles. For even more performance focused riders, you can also buy some suspension options with the YSS upgrade kit, apparently. It says here, individual kits available directly from £430, while the full kit, which I guess is the one that includes the performance upgrades, is from £2,900. So quite a lot of money when you consider, again, this is a bike that's what, £5.5 brand new. So if you're going to pay another £3 on top, quite a chunk of money. But it does look great, doesn't it? I mean, what do you think of that? It's got a new subframe that makes the back end look a bit more shorty, a bit more custom-y. I just think it's a massive improvement on the original bike. I don't know why Royal Enfield don't make them looking like this anyway. Could be to do with homologation and rules of what you can have on the road. I don't know. But certainly, if you've got the wherewithal and the know-how, you could do that to your bike for not a huge amount of money. I think it looks absolutely great. So well done, those guys. Right. Next story, BMW dressed to impress. Yes, every year, well, it seems every year, well, definitely every year, BMW have a bit of an update on their models, and this year is no exception. There are some technical and other updates for BMWs this year. A few of the things that MCN have highlighted here, I'll just read them out for you. BMW have announced their annual range refresh, including new paint and equipment for many of their most popular models. The R1250RT, of which review's coming soon, by the way, I'll talk about that more in parish notices, but I've been riding the 1250RT. I know a lot of viewers of the channel quite keen to see that review coming up. Anyway, they've updated that. It's got a software update to make the favourite button user assignable. The R1250GS gets an optional pannier holder. Don't quite know what that means. And well, I understand individual words, just not in that order. The R1250RS is now available in a sport scheme with a dashing red frame. Sounds nice. The S1000XR gets the triple black, and there's an M pack as well available for that. Big changes for the S1000RR, including the M chassis kit now coming up as standard. There's an optional dynamic riding pack, a race pack, and an M package with the sport pack is now dropped following this. A couple of changes for the R18 and R18 Classic. R18 bars now have the option of Mars Red Metallic. That sounds quite nice. Previously it was just versions of black, wasn't it? Manhattan Metallic Matte, or the option 719 Galaxy Dust, which is pure 70s Americana excess and really enhances the look. All the changes are being introduced in August apparently, so if you're just about to put an order in on a BMW, maybe just hold off for a month or two, because pretty much all the models are getting some changes, and they all sound like they're all good changes as well. Right, next story. What have we got? Furygun In&Motion Airbag Vest. Now I mentioned this because I've become an airbag fan over the last year or so. I had been riding with a Helite airbag vest. I did a video about airbags a while back. I'll put a link in the corner if you're interested in that. I'm a big fan of these now, because these are things that really do, stats have shown, enhance your safety on a motorcycle. Now, if you come off a bike without an airbag on and you break an arm or a leg, fair enough, that's probably not going to kill you. Unpleasant, painful, you don't really want to do it, but it's probably not going to kill you. But if you break your back or your neck, or you do some terrible damage to your internal organs, that might be a different case. This is where I think airbags come in. They protect, you know, all the important stuff in the middle of you, and your back and your neck, when you get the sort of inflate above the neck and keep your helmet steady, like this Furygun one does and the Helite one that I had before does. Now, as I say, I've been wearing the Helite one for ages. You will have seen it on some of my recent tour videos if you've been watching those. Some people have said, why are you now wearing high vis? Well, it's just an airbag that I happen to get in high vis, but a big fan of that. But the one downside of the Helite is, in my case, it's got a tether on it that means you're attached to the bike. Not a big deal, but it is just something you have to remember, a little bit of extra faff. I've now got the Furygun. I've been riding with this for the last month. You'll start to see this appearing on the channel. This is very similar to the Helite in terms of its inflation capability around your neck and back and so on, but this is actually wireless. I will endeavour to do a proper review of it once I've had a few more months riding on it, but all I can say is, so far, I've been really impressed with it. It's very comfortable to wear, and the lack of tether is a great thing. Helite also, by the way, do a non-tetherable one now as well. At some point, maybe I can get a go at that one. Anyway, so that's the Furygun In&Motion Airbag Vest, £379.99, so it doesn't sound as expensive as the Helite, but you do have to pay £120 a year subscription for it. And again, when I do the review, I'll talk more about what that's all about. But there we go. If you're intrigued or interested in airbags, then do give the new Furygun a look. I've been very impressed with it so far. Okay, next story in the second paper. Blurred lines, dual purpose or sports. What's the best 160 bhp adventure bike for the road? So here, MCN have pitted the KTM Super Adventure S, which I haven't ridden the latest version of. I have ridden it, but it was a while back. The Dicati Multistrada V4S, I'm still yet to ride that. I'm very late to the party, but I need to have a chat to Ducati about whether I can have a go on that. I'm convinced I'm going to love that bike. And the BMW S1000XR, which I have had quite a lot of experience on. Lovely bike, just doesn't quite do it for me. Something about the XR, I'm not sure what it is, but I don't, as I say, just doesn't do it for me. The Ducati, I'm willing to believe I'll absolutely love. And the KTM Super Adventure, great bike, but again, looks and size don't really work for me on that, I don't think. Anyway, what have MCN said on their verdict? Dan Sutherland says, both the Ducati and KTM are serious bits of kit. They're rammed with tech, pack buckets of performance, and will carry you across continents at will. But the four-cylinder Beamer is the best pure road bike here, and the one all three of us, the three reviewers, all wanted in the garage. Well, I'm surprised about that all the reviewers on this test preferred the XR. Well, that's different to me. I don't know who the other reviewers are and what backgrounds they have. I know that sports bike riders tend to like the XR, but then they tend to like the Multistrada as well. So a little bit surprised at that. The XR looks don't quite work for me, and there's still a bit of vibration in the XR that I don't like. I do like the four-cylinder engine, but I don't like the vibration, which you don't expect. But there we go. So that's the verdict there. What's your favourite tourer at the moment on the market? For me, I suspect it might be the Ducati, but that's just said, you know, as a wish thing. I haven't actually ridden it yet, but stay tuned. Hopefully, I'll get a go on that in the next few months. You never know. Hopefully, Ducati may be watching and can maybe sort that out for me. That would be good. All right, let's move on to the next one then. Okay, 5 more stories in this issue to quickly skim through. I don't want to keep you too long. A Norton story. New Norton boss wants to get back to winning ways. Now, do you remember when Norton, it went through all that shenanigans, didn't it, last year or the year before now, and Stuart Garner got the push. Then they installed an interim CEO, the new company that bought Norton out. Now they've got the final guy that's going to be there, a guy called Dr. Robert Henschel. He's the new Norton CEO, the permanent man. And there's an article here about what he's been up to. So let me just read you the bits and then I'll tell you some of the feedback I've had having mentioned Norton last time. So Dr. Robert Henschel has only been in the hot seat since June the 1st, but he's already got to grips with key issues and is ready to take Norton forward with a state-of-the-art new factory and a range of exciting new models on the drawing boards. He is also fully committed to coming up with a solution for customers who have been left with a V4SS that has all sorts of problems and been deemed unsafe to be used on the road. Do you remember we mentioned this in the last bike news that the V4SS had something like, New Norton had identified something like 31 faults or something in it, and obviously owners were understandably not happy about it. He said, the new CEO, we're not responsible from a legal perspective, but I want to find a solution for the owners and a solution that is acceptable to all. Very laudable. That sounds great, doesn't it? We understand they're not legally responsible, but of course it's the Norton brand and it sullies them. There are a lot of unhappy people out there, isn't it? It sullies the brand. Now this is the bit where it takes a turn. It all sounded good up to this point, doesn't it? Then he says, the special price for owners of the old bike on the new bike will be confirmed with the V4SS owners once the liquidators inform us of their next steps. So basically what this sounds to me, and I might be wrong here, but it sounds like what new Norton are planning to do for the old owners is give them a special price on a new V4S S. So I don't know what you think about that, but if I was an owner of the old V4S S and New Norton have said, oh, don't worry, you can buy a new one, yours is rubbish, but you can buy a new one for a much reduced price. Well, that ain't fixing it. That ain't a good solution. I don't want, personally, I'll be thoroughly fed up with the V4S S and I probably wouldn't want a new one. So if that's indeed what's happening, that they're going to offer just a good price on a new V4S S for existing owners, well, that's rubbish, I think. But frankly, it would have been better if they just washed their hands of it and said, well, it's nothing to do with us, sorry. Is my thoughts. I don't know. I had a few Norton owners write to me after the last bike news. If I'll be interested to know how things have moved on for you as an owner. Put in the comments below what's happened if you've heard back from Norton, and are they indeed just offering you a lower price on a new bike? If so, I think that's a bit naff. What else have I highlighted here? Henschel also revealed that the Solihull factory will be officially opened in September. Looking forward to seeing that. He also expects to unveil a new version of the V4. A naked model seems most likely at the NEC in Birmingham this November. So looking forward to seeing that. I mean, despite what I just said, I do wish Norton the best of luck. I mean, I love British motorcycles, and I really hope Norton make a go of it this time. It's an ongoing, I mean, this saga just goes on and on, doesn't it? But let's hope this new guy, Robert Henschel, makes a go at it. But let's hope that existing customers are happy too. Anyway, I look forward to hearing from you on that one. Right, next up, Brit Bike Storm the Hill. I mentioned this because this is referring to the Goodwood Festival of Speed, which happened about 2 weeks ago. And I was absolutely so jammy and lucky here because I got invited by Triumph to go and ride the hill. What an amazing opportunity, once in a lifetime stuff. And what made it doubly good for me, or in fact trebly, quadruply good for me, not only did I get to ride up the hill twice with Triumph, but I got to do it with one of my personal heroes, astronaut Tim Peake. Wow, what a brilliant day. It was mind-blowing. I cannot believe how fortunate I was to have this one fall in my lap. So, of course, I made a video. That video will be coming up in the next month. Again, I'll talk more about it in parish notices at the end of this video. But wow, what a fantastic day that was. If you're interested in Festival of Speed, or indeed aviation, rocketry, that sort of thing, do watch that video this month. And thank you to my patrons that also provided me a bunch of questions to put to Tim Peake, which indeed I did. I had a fantastic time. I spent the day with Tim. What a lovely guy. And hopefully you'll enjoy the video. Well, you won't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the day because it was just fantastic, but hopefully some of that will come across in the video. So one to look out for. Okay, moving on. Talking point, a letter here. When is it time to downsize? This is a letter from somebody called, or an email from somebody called Mark Bonner. Weight is not an issue on the move, but pushing and parking is another matter. I'm now 61, he says, and have to admit that although I think I have a similar body shape to Sly Stallone, it's not actually the case. I'm suffering with arthritis, he says, but I'm determined to stay young via biking amongst other things, so what should I be riding? So he's basically asking, what should he downsize to? Interesting question. Is this a problem? I mean, let's face it, the biking community is an aging community, isn't it? Most of us are older guys now, sort of 40 plus. Let's try and get younger people in. But as we get older, we do start to get achy. I'm the same. I've got arthritis in my shoulders. In fact, I can recommend, Mark, if you've not done it already, I had some steroid injections in my shoulder last month, and or both of them. And I have to say, it's made a big improvement to me. I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but it has helped. You know, it's a shame, isn't it, that we have to consider downsizing our bikes in order that we can keep riding because they're just physically too big and heavy to move around the garage anymore. I would say to Mark, look at bikes where the weight is held low down. That makes a big difference. Don't just look at the headline weight figures on paper. Things like the BMW GS, once again, or boxer engine bikes that keep the engine nice and low are actually easier to live with than you might think. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame, isn't it? Again, interested to know in the comments below if you're getting older and you're thinking that actually downsizing is the way to go. I would say actually, bigger isn't always better. I love riding smaller bikes, and even 125s. I've got a 125 at the moment, and I really enjoy riding that bike. So, you know, it's not all bad news. You don't have to have a big bike, of course. Okay, next story. Oh yeah, this is Krazy Horse Customs at Bury St Edmunds, friends of mine, friends of the channel. Great setup they got down there. Just want to mention that now that we're sort of going into a new phase of our pandemic here in the UK, let's say, their bike nights are now back on. The next one I think is on September the 3rd. No, August the 5th is the next one if you're able to go. Unfortunately, I'm unable to go to this one or the next one. I will try and get maybe to the October one if I can. Absolutely great night if you're anywhere near Bury St Edmunds and you get the chance to go down there. They open the place up. They have amazing live bands. They have all sorts of incredible vehicles there, not just bikes but custom cars and things too. Lots of Americana, amazing food. It's just a good night, good natured, free to go, and just really, really good. So if you are within shouting distance of Bury St Edmunds, get yourself down to Krazy Horse and check out their bike night, and hopefully I'll see you there at one of the Krazy Horse Customs bike nights in the future. It's really good. You'll thank me for it. It's a really good night. Okay, last then in this paper, new kid on the block, can Harley-Davidson out-adventure BMW at their first attempt? Now this is the much talked about Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250 Special. They pitted it up against the leader in this space, I would say, the BMW R1250GS. Now of course I'm a massive GS fan, but I'm becoming a Harley fan, I have to say, over the years. I've never liked the look of the Pan America though. Since the first time I clapped eyes on it, I thought it was a hideous looking thing. I have now seen it in the flesh a few times, not only at shows but out and about as well. I saw it at the Adventure Bike Rider Festival last month, and it's sort of starting to grow on me looks wise. I still couldn't bring it, hasn't grown on me enough to actually want to buy one, but it is considerably cheaper than the BMW, and all the reviews I'm seeing are, are applauding it. So I'm hoping at some point in the future I might be able to get a go on one of these myself. What I really like about it is the fact that even though it's a big heavy adventure bike, they've got this feature on the top spec ones where the bike actually lowers when you come to a halt. So if you're a shorty like me, you can get your feet on the deck. Let's see what MTN say. Can it out GS BMW at its own game, as it were? So Michael Neves, my favourite reviewer, says Harley-Davidson's Pan America has seriously impressed us. It's the rugged, no-nonsense Jeep to the BMW's more lavish Range Rover. Well, I'm a Range Rover fan, so there we go. With years of development, it's no surprise the GS is dynamically better in every way and any situation. Not just than the Pan America, but just about any other road bike you care to mention. I would agree, completely biased with Neevesy on that too. But you forgive its small quirks for its meaty V-twin power, its comfort, gadgets, brutal decadence, and its daringly different looks. It's a win for the BMW, but a serious doff of the hat to the Harley. So, this is Harley's first attempt at an adventure bike of this type. So you've got to give them credit for, number one, daring to be a bit different with the looks of it and going out there with this, and also coming up with what seems to be a great bike. If they can do something with the styling of that front end to make it a bit more appealing to the masses, I think they'll be onto an absolute winner. Price wise here, it's interesting. They've given, by the way, the Harley 4 stars out of 5 and the GS 5. Pricing, it says here, 16,900 for the BMW, 15,500 for the Harley, but as tested, 29,770 for the BMW, 20,218 for the Harley. So once you start adding the extras that you're going to want, you're into the 20 grands for these bikes. So neither of them cheap, similar sort of prices. So don't go around thinking that actually the Harley's quite a bit cheaper than the BMW. Might be on paper at the base spec, but by the time you've got the one you want, it's going to be a similar price. Anyway, can't wait to have a go on that myself at some point in the future. Right, last paper before we get on to parish notices. First story here, Triumph set to blaze a new trail. Now this was a big story last week in social media. Triumph announced that they're going to get into enduro bikes. Now this is a complete surprise to me, and they're sort of a somewhat of an off-the-wall idea. They started on social media, they posted pictures of these two fellas who I have to admit, I didn't know who they were. One is Ricky Carmichael. I had heard of him, and I did know who he was. I just didn't know he looked like this. He's got a splendid set of ears, by the way, and I don't mean that in a rude way. Well, okay, I am being rude. I take it back. Anyway, we know who Ricky Carmichael is, so he's obviously knows what he's doing. And the other fella is Ivan Cervantes. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he's a Dakar veteran, so clearly knows what he's up to as well. So these are two people they've signed up, I guess, as ambassadors to promote what are going to be a new range, it sounds, of enduro bikes, which is just incredible that they're getting into this. So cannot wait to see what these are like. I don't know if they're going to be, I mean, if they're like old school and they do them in a retro way and they end up looking a bit like the old, BSA Bantams or something with off-road tyres, that would be absolutely fantastic. Or lightweight Triumphs with off-road tyres, they would look brilliant. If, however, they're going to do something modern to compete against things like, I don't know, Honda CRFs and stuff, not too sure about that. I'll be interested to see what you think. Anyway, let's read what MCN have said. The Hinckley-based operation have outlined ambitious plans to create a whole new range of competition machines, with a factory race programme and teams competing at the highest level in both motocross and enduro. Spearheading the bid is Ricky Carmichael. He's joined by Ivan Cervantes, 5-time world enduro champion, so clearly knows what he's doing. Company CEO Nick Bloor told us this announcement marks the beginning of a new chapter for Triumph, which everyone at Triumph is incredibly excited to be part of. Great. Triumph say an announcement about the new off-road range is expected over the next few months, so I cannot wait to see what these bikes are going to be like. I'm not so worried about these guys. Fine, I mean, I know it's marketing and all that stuff, and that's how it's done these days, isn't it? But I actually want to see the bikes, so fingers crossed they're going to be something that we all lust after. Generally I'm a Triumph fan, so I'm sure they'll be good, but let's wait and see. Announcement coming in the next few months, apparently. Right. Sportster revolution. This is something that's caused all sorts of trouble on the interwebs because although Harley-Davidson killed the Sportster last year because it didn't meet Euro 5, they have come out now with a new version called the Sportster S. This is their regarding as their apex model, top of the range. They may come out with lower spec models in due course, but the thing with this bike is, the thing that's upset some Harley fans, is this has got the new engine, the same engine as in the 1250 Pan America. It doesn't have the old air-cooled V-twin. So it's a massive departure for Harley-Davidson, and the Sportster is a big bike for them because this was their budget entry bike. It's not quite budget entry at the moment because, as I say, this is the S and it's 14 grand, which puts it slightly ahead of the Softail Standard, which is their current cheapest bike, and ironically, or incidentally, rather than ironically, I've got one of those in the garage at the moment, a bike that I'm really enjoying riding. More on that in due course. Anyway, back to the Sportster S then. What do MCN say? Harley-Davidson have unveiled the Sportster S, the latest machine powered by their new Revolution engine. They're tightening up emission regs, putting an end to the bike in Europe last year, as I mentioned. Harley-Davidson will be hoping that the new machine puts that right. Powered by the 1252 V-twin, dubbed the Revolution Max 1250T. It's a water-cooled 60-degree V with double overhead cams and variable valve timing, so it's up there with the tech, this. It's interesting, isn't it, for Harley, because they thrive on their heritage, and every time they do something radical they get slammed by their die-hard fans. It's always been in the case in the past, and they're obviously trying to move forward, and all credit to Harley for that, for coming out with what are properly new and thoroughly modern bikes. Maybe it's the fact that those older die-hard fans, maybe they're getting less and less and they want to get to new markets now, and this is a way of doing it. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, back to what MCN say. The result is a lower peak power and torque, 120 brake horsepower claimed rather than the 150 of the Pan America, but an increase in torque. The Sportster's engine is a stressed member of the bike, so moving down that route as well, as so many bikes are these days. The electronics have had a huge uplift with 3 riding modes, road, sport and rain, 2 custom modes, as well as lean angle ABS and lean sensitive traction control. It'll be in dealers apparently from September, starting at £1 short of 14k, so 13,999 for the Sportster S. Not sure if I like the looks of it as much as the old model, I have to say. But again, they've got to move forward, Harley, haven't they? No one's ridden it yet, as far as I'm aware. Haven't seen any reviews. Be interesting to see how this bike comes across. It's competing, of course, with things like the Indian, isn't it? I can't remember the name of the Indian, the one that I rode, but that was a lovely bike and doesn't look dissimilar to this. So anyway, let's see where that one goes. And again, no one likes to see bike manufacturers go under. Let's hope this and the Pan America really help Harley-Davidson get back on the front foot. Okay. Naked attraction. 3 naked bikes here that MCN have pitted against each other. The new Suzuki GSX-S1000, I've never ridden it. The new Honda CB1000R, which I have ridden. And the Yamaha MT-10, which I've also ridden. So my thoughts on these before we get to MCN's verdict. Now, I've not ridden the Suzuki GSX-S1000, the new one, as I say. I'm sure it's a beautiful bike to ride. 4-cylinder loveliness. I love the GSX-S1000F when I rode that. This is sort of similar, but an upgrade in many ways, albeit naked. I don't like the looks of it, I have to say. I don't like the lights on this. I couldn't live with it personally. I'm sure it's a lovely ride. One day I'll find out, maybe. Next, the Honda CB1000R. We already mentioned that earlier on in bike news. Nothing wrong with the bike at all. Honda's notoriously reliable, nice and smooth 4-cylinder engine. Just doesn't do it for me. It's just a bit too clinical, not much character there for me. So moving on. Then to the Yamaha MT-10. Now, having said I don't like the front of the Suzuki, it's sort of Cyclops looks. The Yamaha has very much a modern front end as well, even though the Yamaha's been around for a while now. But I love the way the MT-10 looks, and when I rode the SP version of this some years back, I fell in love with it. Again, silky smooth 4-cylinder, amazing performance, and I think it looks great. It is perhaps getting a little bit long in the tooth now compared to the others, but out of these 3, I'd still have the MT-10. That's without having ridden the S1000, as I say. Anyway, let's see what MCN say. The Yamaha is still our #1 hooligan, says Phil West. Good, so he concurs with me. The fact the 2 improved bikes still aren't as good as the one that's barely changed in 5 years says all you need to know about the MT-10. So there we go. We rest our case. The MT-10 is the best bike as far as MCN's concerned. I'm glad about that because I've often wondered whether I should sell my Street Triple R and get myself an MT-10 because I like a naked bike, a naked performance bike. I love my Street Triple R, but I've had that for a while now, and it's sort of between this and the Ducati for me. Just amazing naked bikes, but cost and room in the garage are the preventing factors. They gave the MT-10 4 out of 5. What did they give the other bikes? The Suzuki 3 out of 5 and the Honda 3 out of 5 as well, so quite a win there for the MT-10, surprising for such an old model. Alrighty, I promised you some parish notices. Let me tell you what's coming up on the channel in the next month. I've got a cracking month lined up for you, I can tell you. There are rumours, might be stronger than rumours, that my Royal Enfield will be back in the next month. If that is the case, then I'll try and bring you a sort of a reveal video. For those of you that don't know, I've got a Royal Enfield Interceptor. I've been having it customised for months and months. It is now nearing completion. I went and saw it on Tuesday this week, and I have to say it is looking... I'm really, really chuffed with how it's coming on. Not quite finished yet, but should be in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know whether that means I'll get a video out in the next couple of weeks. Possibly not, but certainly in the next month you will see my newly revamped Royal Enfield Interceptor Custom as it is now. So look out for that. Okay, next, coming up on Monday is the final episode of my Tenby tour. Thank you to those of you that have been watching and enjoying that tour. It's been great to be out on the GS again. Really enjoyed that. Last episode of that coming up on Monday. Then it's my in-depth review of the Tiger 850, which is possibly my favourite of the Tiger range from Triumph. It's their sort of, in quotes, budget bike, but I really, really enjoyed the 850, so that's coming up. Then I've got that very special video, me riding the Festival of Speed with Tim Peake. Put this one in your diaries. I think you're going to enjoy it. Monday, August the 9th, that's scheduled for at the moment. Really looking forward to sharing that with you. Then I've got the R1250RT on August the 12th. August the 16th is a great biker scrounge with Jeff and Dan. Went out and we rode sidecars. What a hoot that was, on a really lovely day last week as well. So that's coming up on August the 16th. Again, I think you're going to like that one. Looking forward to sharing that with you. I've then got more on the RT. I've got the in-depth review of the Fireblade, and more on the Harley-Davidson Fat Boy that I rode recently, and I've got my first video of the PCX125 scooter from Honda. Britain's best-selling bike, has been for absolutely ages, and I really enjoyed that bike. That's all coming up too. The next bike news is going to be slightly later than usual. It'll be Thursday, September the 2nd, and would you believe it will be my 5th year of doing bike news, so it'll be the 5th anniversary edition. Not that I'll be doing anything different, but can you believe I've been doing this for 5 years? So thank you very much to everybody that continues to say that they like bike news and keeps watching it. If you keep watching it, I'll keep doing it. What else have I got to say? Oh, don't forget to check out my website as well, where you can see loads of background information about the channel, stuff like my most favourite bikes, things, all sorts of bits and pieces on there. www.themistenflyer.com if you want to go and check that out. You can also get things like my merch, so, you know, mugs if you fancy a TMF mug, or indeed a splendid polo shirt, things like that, all on my website. Go and check that out. Don't forget to follow me on social media as well. I'm on all the platforms. I'm trying to build those up. And also just wanted to say, don't forget that this weekend, if you're going to Richie Vida's Wild Bow weekend, I'll see you there on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can only be there on a Saturday afternoon, late-ish. I'll be there probably around about 5-ish. Sorry about that. Just as I was getting to my crescendo, my camera overheats and decides to shut down. Sorry about that. Anyway, I pretty much finished. I hope you enjoyed that. Do leave your comments below as to whether you agree or disagree with anything I've talked about in this month's bike news, and I look forward to reading those. All right, speak to you again soon. Until then, this has been the Mist and Flyer. Cheerio.